Hi, I'm Stu from HiveMind Automation and welcome back to the Hive. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at some of the annoying things about my smart home and how I go about troubleshooting them. For some of you, this might serve as a cautionary tale, and for others, it may help you to figure out your own smart home annoyances and solve them. So while I roll the intro, why don't you take a moment to subscribe and hit the bell icon to get notified when I release new videos each week. While you're at it, if you like what I do here and you want to support the channel, there's some affiliate links in the video description to purchase some of the home automation gadgets that I've reviewed in the past, and other ways that you can support the channel, like signing up for NordVPN using my affiliate link or supporting the channel directly through my Buy Me a Coffee link. With all of that out of the way, let's get started. Now, before we get into the things that annoy me about my smart home, I do want to clarify that I regret nothing. Every issue we're going to go through today, while it's been frustrating, I am treating these as a learning experience to get to know my smart home better and to get better at troubleshooting the problems that I have. Hopefully, you can learn from my mistakes and avoid some of these frustrations, but also if you've got some of these frustrations yourself, you might just learn a couple of different ways that you can solve them. For problem number one, a while back, I made a video about this Nanoleaf Essentials A19 smart bulb. It's a great bulb and I'm still very happy with it, but for the first couple of weeks of having it installed in the ensuite bathroom, it was quite frustrating. You see, I use motion sensors around the house, including in the ensuite, and I've set up automations to trigger the lights to turn on when there's motion, and then when there's no motion, there's an automation to turn the lights off. And this would normally be fine, except that unfortunately the Nanoleaf Essentials, at least as far as I know right now, can't be integrated directly into Home Assistant. And so to automate the light, I originally ended up setting up the automation inside Apple HomeKit. Now, HomeKit was able to see the motion sensor data pass through from Home Assistant, and then I was able to set up HomeKit to trigger the light based on that motion sensor. Unfortunately, HomeKit automations don't have the nuance where you can specify that you want a sensor to be in a specific state for a defined period of time before triggering an automation like what we have in Home Assistant. So the problem, of course, was that if you were standing or sitting still in the ensuite for more than a minute or taking a shower because the infrared can't see through the glass shower screen, the lights would turn off, which, especially if you're showering after dark, becomes a bit of a problem. So we ended up having to put up with reaching outside the shower screen and waving at the motion sensor for a couple of weeks until I came up with a solution. The first step in creating a solution was to create a toggle helper in Home Assistant in the helpers section here and call that, I'll call this one bathroom motion. And we'll just give it a icon, go motion sensor, and I'll click create on that. And so now I've got this bathroom motion sensor. And that, as you'll know if you've watched my intro to helpers video, is basically just a switch. So then what I did is I just set up my normal motion-based automations to toggle this switch on and off in Home Assistant, with the added nuance of waiting for 15 minutes after the motion sensor clears before switching off this toggle helper. So the next step then was to make sure that my HomeKit could see that switch. And so going to my integrations page and going to HAS switches and clicking on the 3-dot stack and then reloading that automation will then pass that data through to Home Assistant, and we would be able to see that bathroom motion switch in our HomeKit. So with that helper entity created and a quick restart of Home Assistant, We'll then have the bathroom motion switch in Apple HomeKit here, and it might take a little while for that to come back up. And then it was just a matter of using that switch to then toggle the light on and off in Apple HomeKit. And that's problem solved. We've since swapped the light in our ensuite out for the LifeX Clean that I reviewed in a previous video, and the Nanoleaf Essentials light has been moved into another room. For the second annoying thing about my smart home, we once again run into something that HomeKit does. When you engage Siri to turn accessories on and off and say something like, turn off the kitchen lights, sometimes Siri misses the lights part and hears turn off the kitchen. Any smart accessories that are in the kitchen room in Apple Home get turned off. Now I have smart switches on the dishwasher and the fridge so that I can monitor the energy usage of those appliances, and there's other smart switches around the house that are what I would consider always on, but the only reason for having a smart switch there is for the energy monitoring. So the other night when I told Siri to turn off the kitchen lights, and I thought nothing of it when Siri replied, okay, the accessories are off. Little did I know Siri hadn't heard lights in my command and not only turned off the lights, but turned off the fridge and dishwasher smart switches as well. Now, thankfully, when we got up in the morning and discovered the problem, the insulation in the freezer meant that only a couple of things defrosted to the point where we didn't quite trust them anymore and ended up throwing them out. But that's kind of not really the point. So while this has only happened one time, that's still one time too many. I started thinking about how to prevent this from being an issue in the future, and I've come up with a couple of different options, but the solution I've implemented is probably the best. The first and possibly the most obvious option would be in Apple Home to create a separate room for these always on accessories and move them into that room. And while it might prevent the problem, it does create a disconnect where the accessories are physically located and your smart home logic. I also spent some time researching a different way to maybe lock a switch into the on position, and while it's possible with Tasmoda, my smart switches in here with energy monitoring aren't Tasmoda, and the cards that are available for Lovelace dashboards in Home Assistant don't do much outside of the Home Assistant dashboard itself. So the solution that I've come up with and implemented actually does nothing to stop the issue from happening again, but it does mean that the issue resolves itself fairly quickly if and when it does happen again, and it's very, very simple. I'm going to head over to my settings here and then go to automations and scenes, and I'm going to search for fridge. And you'll see I've got this automation here called fridge power protection. And all that's looking for is the change state of the fridge entity going into a power state of off. And it's not even waiting for it to be off for any period of time. It's just if the fridge turns off, there's no conditions, and then the action is to turn the switch back on. This in testing is very, very, very responsive, and it's normally triggering within a couple of seconds. And by setting up the automation in this way, even if I go out to my Home Assistant dashboard and I search for fridge, even if I turn the fridge off, it will turn back on very quickly. So you might have seen that switch move back to the on position very, very quickly. So because that turns back on very, very quickly, normally within a second or two, it should mean no more spoiled food. Now, I would definitely love for there to be a method within Home Assistant to define a smart switch as an always on or energy monitor only switch so that you can't accidentally turn it off ever. But as far as I know right now, this isn't a thing. The addition of this feature would render automations like this one redundant, but at least for now, I think it's a pretty good solution. So I'm calling this problem solved. So the third problem is that if one of us decides that we're going to take a mid-afternoon nap, or we both decide that we're going to go to bed earlier than normal, the other person either walking into the room or one of us getting up to go to the bathroom will trigger the motion lights in the bedroom to come on, and that wakes the other person up. Now, this obviously detracts from the spousal approval factor of the smart home, also potentially then leads to lost sleep. So while I haven't implemented this solution yet, let's work through it together. So the first part of the solution that I've come up with is to create another toggle helper. So we'll go to settings and I'll go to devices and services here. And we'll go to helpers. We're doing this in production, by the way. This is my production instance of Home Assistant. And I'll click on create helper, and I want to create another toggle entity. And I'm going to call this one sleeping. And for the icon, I'll grab a bed queen. That looks good. So I will create that toggle. So now we've got this sleeping toggle, and I want to go back to my settings, and I want to go to my automations and scenes, and I want to find all of my bedroom. So my master bedroom motion scenes. So no motion weekend, motion, and those. So what I'm going to do, let's just go into this one here, motion detection boudoir weekday. And I'm going to change the condition here. So we have a time condition here where it is after 9 a.m. and before 9 p.m. on Monday through Friday. And we've also got a condition that the illumination needs to be below 80. The motion sensor I've got in there has an illumination sensor in there as well. So we can do some more nuanced decisions based on how much light is already in there. I'm going to add another condition that the state of sleeping, so this input boolean sleeping, the state needs to be off. And it doesn't need to be off for any period of time. I just want that state to be off. So it's going to confirm sleeping is off, and I'll need to add this to all of my other automations as well. So now that I've created that toggle and I've added that condition to my motion detection automations, I do want to make another change where I'm going to just automate based on a time of day to turn that sleeping toggle off. So I'll click create automations with an empty automation. I'll create a trigger which will be a time at a fixed time, and I'll just make this 8 a.m. For now. I can obviously modify that. So when the time's 8 a.m., we'll add an action, and I'm going to call a service, and I want input boolean turn off, and we're going to choose the input boolean of sleeping. So that is turning off that sleeping input boolean. So I'll save that. So that's going to happen every morning at 8 a.m. Now, I'm probably going to actually need to restart Home Assistant for this to work, because my input boolean probably hasn't been passed through to HomeKit yet. So I'll go to my developer tools. I'll just check the configuration quickly and give it a restart. So we'll do that now, and in a moment when Home Assistant comes back up, we will make sure that we've got this set up in HomeKit as well. Hopefully now with Home Assistant restarted and the new HomeKit details passed through, we should be able to see in here, I'll find, we've got this switch sleeping here. What I'm going to do, I'm going to go to accessories details. I'm going to click on here, and I'm going to move that into, we'll move that into the bedroom. That's the most obvious place for it to be. And I'll close that off. So now we'll go to bedroom, and we've got this sleeping switch there, and we'll see also we've got the good night scene, and I want to right click on that and click edit scene, and we'll scroll all the way to the bottom, and I'll click on add or remove accessories. And now I just want to find, in the bedroom, I want to find the sleeping switch. So now I'm going to click done on that, and we'll go through here and find sleeping. Now at the moment it says turn off. I'm going to change that to turn on because I do want the switch to come on when we say good night to Siri. The other thing I might do in here to potentially solve another problem is I'm going to add the kitchen lights here to be turned off as well as part of the goodnight automation. So we'll turn that off. So now we've got, for the scene, we've got sleeping gets turned on, other things get turned off, like garage lights, the dining room light, LED lights, etc. A whole bunch of stuff gets turned off, but we do want to turn the sleeping switch on, and we're also turning on the alarm for home mode. So that is the good night scene. What I'm going to do as well, I'm going to click the plus button and click add scene, and I'm going to call it nap time, and we'll add accessories. And again, I'm going to go for the master bedroom light, the sleeping switch, and we'll go for the strip as well, and we'll go done. We're going to turn the sleeping switch on, and we'll add that to the home view as well. So now we can click done. So we've got nap time and good night. So we should be able to trigger those with Siri and not have the lights come on when we are trying to either take a nap or have gone to bed early. Now, in terms of turning the sleeping switch off, I could reasonably add a good morning scene either to HomeKit or to Amazon Alexa, and I might actually take a look at doing something like that on a future video. Thinking about it, there's a couple of other ways that I could automate the triggering of this sleeping toggle either on or off. I am considering getting a bed sensor or two so that Home Assistant can then know if one or both of us are in bed. And I'm still researching the right hardware for that solution, so if you've got any recommendations, please let me know in the comment section down below. But with that kind of setup, Home Assistant would know that if nobody's in bed, then the sleeping toggle could be in a state of off. If one or both of us are in bed, then the sleeping toggle could go into a state of on, or maybe we need some more nuance around that. And another option for turning it off automatically would be monitoring the charging status of the phones that we've got connected to the Home Assistant app. And if both phones are in a state of not charging or not connected to a charger, then we could then turn the sleeping toggle off. Again, that might need a little bit more nuance. For the last problem, this one was driving me crazy for weeks. I kept noticing at bedtime that the light in the spare room was still on and nobody had been in there for hours. So there's no way that the motion sensor was still triggered, and I thought I'd looked everywhere for the problem. I started out thinking maybe I'd accidentally reactivated holiday mode with the random on and off intervals for the lights in that room, but I checked and the holiday mode automations weren't enabled. And then I thought, well, I've got 2 instances of Home Assistant and some of my accessories are linked to both instances. So maybe there's an automation on my demo instance of Home Assistant that's causing this. So I checked, and once again, no. I disabled all the automations for that room in the demo instance. The next thing I thought about was maybe I'd done something weird with a HomeKit scene that had that light turning on as part of it. And while it turned out that I did have something set up to turn the light on when the first person gets home, after removing that light from that automation, I was still seeing that light coming on at bedtime on some nights. And what the heck, I thought to myself, with obviously a slightly less G-rated vocabulary. And I was so frustrated that I decided to dig through all of the automations linked to that accessory. Now, it turns out that inside my no motion spare room automation here, it's worth noting that I'm using a LifeX set state action here rather than just a light.turn off action. And if we expand that, we can actually see that we're using this power parameter here, and you can either turn the light on or off or uncheck it to leave the power as it is. Now, I had this checked, but I had the state set to on. I've got no idea how this got set to a state of on, but the obvious solution here was to change this to be off so that the power for the light was being turned off when this automation got triggered, and it also gets this nice transition of 30 seconds to turn the light off. So that was a relatively simple fix here, but the lesson learned, if there's something that's frustrating you with your smart home, when you hear hoofbeats, think horses, not zebras. It was definitely worth going through and checking all of the automations to find the piece of the puzzle that I'd missed. So those are some of the problems that I had with my smart home and the ways that I've solved them. Let me know in the comments section down below the problems that you're having with your smart home, or a different way that you might solve some of my problems. But let me know how you're solving yours as well, or maybe even just start a conversation in the comments and let's see if we can't solve those problems together. That's all we have for this video, and I do hope that it helped you in your home automation and smart home journey. Be sure to comment down below with home automation ideas that you'd like to see me cover in a future video. And don't forget to follow HiveMind Automation on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up button down below to give it a like and help the YouTube algorithm to recommend it to more viewers. And if you're not already subscribed, please consider changing that now. While you're at it, if you hit the bell icon, you'll receive a notification when I release new videos each week. If you are currently in the market for a VPN provider, I've placed an affiliate link for NordVPN in the video description as well. I chose to partner with NordVPN because they've got the best infrastructure of any of the VPN providers I looked into. They have a strict no-logs policy and servers all over the planet. On top of that, they've got apps for just about every platform around, including Windows, Mac, Linux, iOS, and Android. So no matter what platform you're using, you can protect your sensitive personal information while you browse the web, even on unsecured Wi-Fi. So get a VPN today and use my link below to sign up for NordVPN. Lastly, if you like what I'm doing here and you want to help to support the channel, there is a Buy Me a Coffee link in the video description down below. Any contributions that you make through Buy Me a Coffee get put towards making more and hopefully better content for you to enjoy. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Stu from HiveMind Automation, and I'm looking forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.